Welcome everyone. Welcome to 24 Hours of Past Summit Preview 2015. We are excited you could join us today for Mike Willings' sessions, Leadership Without Borders, Working with Global Teams. This 24 Hours of Past event consists of 24 consecutive live webcasts delivered by expert speakers from the past community. This session is a preview of one of the many technical sessions that will be presented at Past Summit in October this year. Recording will be available next week at www.24hoursofpast.com. My name is Jaroslav Alpizar. I'm a SQL Server DBA at a hospitality business-related company, and I have a few key introduction slides before I hand over the presentation to Mike Hillwig. He will speak for about 45 minutes, and then we will move into the QA where you can ask him any questions you may have. If you have any question, or if you are experiencing any issues, just type your question into the question pane on the GoToWebinar control panel, and someone will assist you. Feel free to enter your question in the QA field at any time. Once we get to the QA portion of the session, I will read off your questions to the speaker. Since all attendees are mute, you will need to submit your question by typing in the QA field. Also, there will be a short evaluation at the end of the session. Your feedback is important to us, so please take a moment to complete it. It will appear in your web browser. 24 Hours of Past will not be possible without the support and dedication of our sponsors. They are the reason this event is available to you free of charge. I would like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsors, Microsoft, Dell Software, and Idea. In addition, I would also like to thank the supporting sponsor for this event, Hillwig, SQL Centric, and Pyramid Analytics. Next, I would like to bring your attention to the upcoming Past Summits, taking place in Seattle, Washington from October 27th to the 3rd. Past Summit 2015 will feature over 200 sessions with the world-class SQL Server experts. Planned and presented by the SQL Server community for the SQL Server community, Past Summit is single-handedly the largest gathering of SQL Server and BA professionals in the world. With over 5,000 registrants from all over the world, Past Summit is also a great place to network and meet face-to-face with experts, peers, and MVPs. More importantly, Past Summit delivers on providing you with the answers to your SQL Server issues, along with the knowledge, strategies, and skills you need to stay ahead on the curve. Save $200 right now by using the discount code 24HOP15 when you register. Optimize your savings by registering before the end of Sunday, September 20th. To find out more about Past Summit, please visit www.pastsummit.com. Make sure you explore everything Past has to offer to data professionals. You can join local user groups around the world, research artists, find free online resources through our Learning Center, and read up on the latest community news in the Connected newsletter. For those interested in business analytics, check out the Past Business Analytics Conference happening in May next year. Visit www.pastbaconference.com for more information, or subscribe to our bi-weekly BA Insights newsletter. And now, please allow me to present the speaker of the hour, Senior DBA and SQL Server MVP, Mike Hillwig.
Thank you, Jaroslav. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. My name is Mike Hillwig, and this evening, this afternoon, or this morning, depending on where you are in the world, we're going to be talking about leadership without borders, working with global teams. As Jaroslav said, my name is Mike Hillwig. I'm a SQL Server MVP, and I'm the DBA team lead at Eagle Investment Systems. As I mentioned, I am a SQL Server MVP. And this slide tells you just a little bit about me. I live just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and I am the organizer of SQL Saturday Boston. In the top center, those are my kids. That's Reggie on the left and Ruby on the right. And as the bottom center slide shows, I am a frequent flyer. I do travel a decent amount. And something I want to point out is that I live on the approach path into Boston's Logan International Airport. So if you hear me stop talking for a moment and you hear this whoosh sound, that's simply an airplane landing over my house. Don't be alarmed, it happens all the time. And as the bottom right picture shows, I am a native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My corporate attorneys have asked me to remind you that these views that I'm going to show today, these are my own views and not necessarily those of my employer. For those of you who are following along, you can find my blog at mikehillwig.com, and I tweet at twitter.com/mikehillwig. And please feel free to tweet me any feedback about today's presentation. This is the first time I've given it, and any feedback that you can provide me will definitely help me as I get closer to Summit. And of course, you can email me. That address is mike@mikehillwig.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/mikehillwig. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about the models of what global support really is. Then I want to talk about some of the challenges that we see working with teams around the world. And then what probably the biggest thing is the benefits of having people around the globe. And then finally, I want to talk about what we've learned and how we've been successful working with people around the globe. What I want you to understand is that these are indeed my stories. This comes from my experience working with people around the globe over the last 4 years. What I'm going to ask you to do is understand that these are observations of cultural differences. Please don't confuse those with stereotypes, because what I'm really talking about what I have experienced working with my teams in India and Poland and other places around the world. And what you'll also see is that I've tried to punctuate this story with pictures from my travels and the travels of my colleagues. So as I talk about where around the world are we, I thought I'd just give you a little bit of a picture of where my teams are. So we have a lot of people in the U.S. based out of Wellesley, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. We also have a significant number of people in Pittsburgh, as well as Everett, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston as well. However, if you look at us on a global landscape, just the teams that I work with directly, I have a very large team that I work with in Pune, India. That's just outside of Mumbai. But I also have another team on the other side of Pune that is just DBA support. I also have a team in Bhubaneswar, India, which is just outside of Calcutta, and that is our R&D infrastructure team. And then I also have a team I work with in Wrocław, Poland, and they're very much a mirror of our U.S. team as well. So first, I want to talk about the theory behind outsourcing and offshoring, because once we start to understand that, this is going to start to make a little more sense. So a lot of times we use the phrase outsourcing and offshoring, and we use them interchangeably, but there really is a difference. So what I want to dig into a little bit is why it matters. And if you look at this picture, by the way, this is with one of the teams that I work with. This is my DBA team in Poland. So what is outsourcing? Really, outsourcing is anything you pay an outside party to do. Now, in terms of IT, we often look at it as staff augmentation. But really, outsourcing is anything that you pay a third party to do. Now, a lot of times we use web hosting or telecom services. Here in the US, payroll outsourcing is a really big business because it's just something that companies like ADP or Paychex, they can do it better, faster, and cheaper than we can. And that's really the point I'm trying to make here, is that when you outsource something, it's typically because someone can do it better, faster, and cheaper. The example I love to use, it's very near and dear to my heart, is my mom is a florist, and her clients come to her, and they come to her because she can deliver flowers better, faster, and cheaper than you could do it yourself. I mean, sure, you could grow your own garden, and you could grow all the flowers, and you could arrange them, and you could deliver them, but that's a lot of time and money. My mom can do it better, faster, and cheaper, and that's what makes outsourcing successful. But offshoring, on the other hand, is simply when you put people outside of your own country's borders. And places where we tend to offshore is India, China, Ireland, and throughout Eastern Europe. Now, these two guys on this slide, this is Michal and Camille. They're they're the Windows guys that I work with in our Poland office. They work for the exact same company I do, but the simple fact is they're in a different office than I am. So they're offshore without being outsourced because we work for the same company. And that's the key difference. So we go back to outsourcing versus offshoring. Can you mix the two? And the answer is absolutely. We do it, and most companies do. What happens is you may have your own people in an office in India, but you might also have an outsourced team in you could put them in Bangladesh or in China or somewhere else around the globe. So it's absolutely something that you can do by mixing. Now, there's some different types of outsourcing, and I'm talking here about IT outsourcing. You have that dedicated team. So if I have a team at one of the big global outsourcing companies, I have a team that is dedicated to me. And I know that I work with those 6, 8, 20 people that are dedicated to servicing my business. Or in the case of, say, your payroll processing, you just say, I want to go to my client team, or I want to talk to tech support at this company. There's a little bit of a difference there. And I like to work with dedicated teams, but there's a place for everything. All right, so why do companies outsource? Like I said, you outsource things when they can do it better, faster, and cheaper. Now, in terms of IT, a lot of times we outsource because it is more cost efficient. However, sometimes we also do it because we can bring in someone who has a skill set that we don't have in-house. If you look at it in terms of if you need a high-end SQL Server tuning expert, you could hire someone yourself and put them on your own payroll, or you could bring in a consultant. Sometimes you have that, it makes more sense to bring in someone from the outside just because they can do it quickly, they have a skill set that you don't have in-house, but more importantly, when you're done with them, they leave. When you hire someone directly, you tend to have them on your staff for a long time. That's why we outsource, is because we have that flexibility in staffing as we need it. So why do we offshore? Again, sometimes offshoring can be less expensive, but really the big driver here is doing what we call follow the sun support. The way my teams operate, I have someone available around the clock so that when my client has an issue at 4 a.m. Eastern, I can tell you exactly who on my team in India is going to be supporting that. It really is helpful. But if I have an issue at, say, 6 a.m. Eastern, that's probably going to fall to my team in Poland. The other thing is it avoids getting people out of bed. Before we started bringing in some people outside of the U.S., when my clients had a problem in the middle of the night, I had to get out of bed. That gets old really fast. So, but I guess what I want to tell you is that today's topic, we're just going to limit this to offshoring. So I want to talk about where you have people, but who they're employed by doesn't matter in the context of this. And with that said, I want to start choosing our words very carefully, because I'm trying very hard in my own organization to eliminate the word offshore. I think there's a certain connotation to it, and it tends to cheapen the work that our people around the globe do. I have some really great people that I work with around the globe. So let's celebrate the fact that they're good and that they're available to our clients. And again, instead of outsourcing, I like to think that we leverage our partners, because instead of outsourcing, we really do partner with our vendors that help provide support for other things. Okay, enough theory. I know it's dry. I wanted to explain it. There are definitely some challenges working with people around the globe. The first one, and this probably isn't surprising, is language. Language challenges are something that you can only solve when you hire people. If someone doesn't speak English well or speak the language that supports your clients, it's very difficult to get them up to speed later. Um, what I've learned working with my team in India is that they use some phrases, some English phrases that I wasn't used to hearing. And it was actually, it's been an adventure. And I hear them say things like, take care of same, meaning, all right, this is what I've talked about. It's your turn to do this. Or they'll say, do the needful. I love that one. It took me the longest time to figure out. When someone says, I'm not keeping well, it means I'm getting sick. Or if they say, I'm taking the afternoon for some business. It's just a very polite way of saying, I have a doctor's appointment. And there's definitely been some cultural lessons learned as part of working with my people in India. So I've seen that my teams in India tend to not speak up as much. They tend to be a little more brief in how they speak. And they're very afraid of being impolite, which I find endearing. But at the same time, it's difficult and it's a challenge to get people to speak up, and it's hard to gain their trust. It's really hard to gain their trust. And in that vein of being afraid of being impolite, they tend to be non-confrontational. And you deal with someone in the U.S., especially being here on the East Coast, we tend to be a little more brash and a little more in your face about things. So I've seen that my people in India are definitely much more polite, which I think is great because it puts them in a great position to take care of my clients. I like the idea that I have polite people working with my clients. Now, my team in Poland, on the other hand, is a very different story. When they're troubleshooting something, they are simply undaunted. They have a much higher risk appetite when they're troubleshooting something. But also in Poland, they have really strict labor laws. From the end of one person's of a person's shift until the start of the next one, they're required to have 11 hours off, which makes it really difficult for on-call coverage and as well and weekend coverage. The other thing is that if my team in Poland calls in sick, it means they're really sick and they're probably going to be out for a couple of days. But when you compare India versus Poland, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where cultural differences are fascinating. If you're a people watcher and if you follow cultures, this is great, because my team in India, you give them a checklist and they can follow it consistently and perfectly every time. But when they're troubleshooting and they come across something on a checklist they don't get, they're going to stop and they'll escalate it. However, my team in Poland, they have a higher risk appetite when they're troubleshooting something, and they will see it through to the end. They will just dig in. And I often joke between my two teams that if there's a problem, India loves to escalate it to Poland, and they'll say, I don't know what to do. So Poland team, can you take a look at this? It's really a cultural difference, and I've had to learn to work with this and how to corral my team in India. Say, okay, come on, guys, let's bring it back. Here, this is how we're going to troubleshoot it. It's actually been a lot of fun. One of the key points, though, is that you have to understand that the challenges of cultural differences are actually a bigger challenge than language barriers. Believe that one or not, you would tend to think that because my team in India has a much thicker accent, they'd be harder to understand. As someone who works with my teams in India all the time, I've learned to get through their accent, but dealing with the cultural differences are actually the more difficult thing. Another challenge, though, is that India is not the value it used to be. We used to think that India was cheap. The simple fact is it's a really good time to be a tech worker in India right now. People are seeing high turnover, and it's causing some high lead time in hiring. That's a challenge, and it actually makes India a little harder of a place to be sending work. The other thing that we deal with is something that I like to refer to as skill shift. And when I assign a task to my teams around the globe, and I don't do the work here in the U.S., my teams here in the U.S. we forget about some of the work we did. Today, Thursday, was a holiday in India, so my entire team had the day off, and I was supporting clients strictly from the U.S. today. I have to tell you that I forgot some of the processes that I've created. I had to go back and look up my own documentation because, ooh, I forget how to do that. So one of the things we do is we do a regular India out exercise. And what that does is it shows our management team and it shows our clients that we can do things from anywhere on the globe and not just in one offshore or one global location. Another big challenge is keeping our people motivated. It's a real challenge avoiding treating your people like they're cheap labor. And we try really hard to not treat our teams around the globe as a dumping ground for stuff that we don't want to do in the U.S. That's a big challenge, and we try to give our global teams more value-added work. The fact is, I have DBAs on my team around the globe, and I like to think that anything that a DBA in the U.S. can do, a DBA in India or Poland or Singapore, they can do it. But we also try to make sure that the manual tasks that we give to India don't run out of control. When I talked about the cultural differences, my teams in India won't speak up to say, hey, you're giving us too much work. They just dig through it. And as a team lead, I have to make sure that work doesn't run out of control. The other challenge is that there is definitely a stigma to having people around the globe. Sometimes clients will be concerned when we tell them, oh, we're going to have our team in India support that. Well, and there's often a perception inside our own company of, oh, we're going to send that offshore. And there's a stigma to that. And the other thing is there can sometimes be a perception in the marketplace that, oh, they do that work in India. The simple fact is we use our people around the globe as a benefit to the client experience, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Another one of the challenges that we see is that there's an infrastructure issue, especially in India. Because of we're sending data 8,000 miles away, you're going to see network latency. It's that darn speed of light thing. Data can only move so fast. The power infrastructure in India just isn't what it is in the US. And if you've ever seen videos of traffic in India, I can only describe it as it's like a video game. It's unbelievable. And when my team says, oh, I'm running late due to traffic, I think, I live on the East Coast. I deal with traffic all the time. It wasn't until I saw real traffic in India that I knew just how bad it really was. And the other thing is dealing with perceptions at home. My team in the US doesn't always see what my teams in India have dealt with overnight. We come in the morning and say, why didn't this get done overnight? We didn't see that there was a server went down, or that they were dealing with database corruption, or that there was a client who had an operational problem or something. Our teams deal with things around the clock, and sometimes our local teams lose sight of the fact that they're dealing with other things. But probably the biggest challenge I've seen is that our people in the US may not trust the findings of our team in India, and I am just as guilty of this. I was dealing with my storage administrator in India, and he said, well, here's the problem. And I looked at his findings, and I went to my counterpart here in the US and asked the exact same question. And you know what? I got the exact same answer. And this is totally on me because I didn't trust what my people in India were telling me, and I should have. and it's definitely a perception thing that we have to get past that. So those are some of the challenges. Let's talk about the benefits, because this is when I started working with my teams in India, I realized just how great this can be. Now, have you ever tried to get a DBA to work second shift or a graveyard shift regularly? It's just not going to happen. What I love about my team in India is that they let me sleep. My phone does not ring in the middle of the night unless it's an absolute emergency. Why? Because my team in India is taking care of my clients. If my clients have a problem overnight, or if a database server has an issue, or a backup fails, or anything happens, my team handles it. It's having another DBA somewhere else on the globe to take care of my clients, and I simply love that. And the other thing is it helps us provide weekend and holiday coverage. I'm going to talk about holiday coverage in another slide, because this is something we do incredibly well. But I think one of the best advantages is the fact that it provides increased quality to our clients. The simple fact, and I believe this is undisputed, people will always provide better work in their own daytime shifts. If I have to get up in the middle of the night and fix something, I'm not going to do it as well as I would if I did it during my own daytime. So if something happens in the middle of the night, my team in India is going to handle it, and they're going to do it. They're going to do it during their own daytime, which is probably going to provide us some better quality. But this next one, this is the key right here. And if you have people working for you around the globe, this is the absolute one reason why you should be having. This is the reason to put people around the globe. This enhances the client experience. The simple fact is it allows us to provide our clients with a better service level. If a client has a problem and they open an incident, or they call us and say, we've got a problem, my team in India is available to support them in the middle of the night, as opposed to someone having to call me, getting connected to the VPN, logging in, finding it, figure out what's going on. My team in India is 20 minutes ahead of me. It's a better response time. And the other thing, and I love this, I saw this firsthand when I was in India last time, is that it's right in line with client operational practices. My company provides a data warehouse solution for our clients. And what happens is that a lot of this data gets fed in the middle of the night. Because systems operate in the middle of the night, it also means that there can be problems in the middle of the night. So my clients have people around the globe as well to run their systems. Well, when I was visiting one of our partners in India back in January, what I saw was they took me into the bullpen for this one particular client, and I went, hey, this is my client. And I'm actually seeing that the people at the client we're working with are actually they're actually being supported by the same partner that we're using. So it's directly in line with what our clients are doing. So if the clients are working around the clock, so are we. And that's why we think it helps enhance the client. That helps enhance the client experience. Finally, I want to talk about some lessons learned and what has made us successful working with our teams around the globe. First, hiring is absolutely essential. What we try to do is hire good people first and skill set second. What that means is that we're looking for people that do good work, that can communicate efficiently with our clients, and that can follow through on things. Our people have to be able to communicate what they're thinking to the client in client-friendly language. And they also need to have the language skills to communicate with our clients in the ways that our client needs to hear, whether that be writing or over the phone. And this is where I love my team in Poland. I can get on a call with a client, and I'll be on the call with one of our Windows guys in Poland, and their English is absolutely flawless, and the clients don't realize that they're dealing with someone around the globe. It's fantastic. The other thing, and this is something we do really well. And I think a lot of companies could learn from this example. We don't hide the fact that we have people around the globe. As I mentioned before, our global teams are a benefit to the client experience. When we respond to a client inquiry or an incident, the client doesn't get a response from tech support. We use the actual names of our employees. We don't use westernized names. And I think that increases the trust that our clients place in us. Nothing bothers me more than when I call a hardware vendor and I get someone with a very thick accent and they say, "Hello, my name is Joe." Now I know darn well that that guy's name isn't Joe. He's not in a Western country. So don't hide it. Own it, celebrate it, and that's something we do very well because now our clients have started to understand that, hey, having people around the globe, this helps us. This is something we work on every day, all day, and that's avoiding micromanagement. I am a strong believer that death by process is the death of innovation. We have to get out of our people's way and let them do good work. The moment you start putting an abundance of checklists and processes and all of these policies and procedures, you start to hamstring your people, and it actually limits how they can help support your clients. So I really work very hard on avoiding micromanagement. It's easy to micromanage things, and you have to get away from it. It's a challenge every day, and it's something we've had to work on being successful at. The other thing is that when you avoid micromanagement, it helps foster a culture of troubleshooting and creative thinking. When I take away the 87-page checklist for someone to do something, it gives them an opportunity to be more creative in how they troubleshoot and how to creatively and critically look at things. And I think that's something we've done incredibly well. The other thing, and this is big, every one of our offices has local managers. The simple fact is I am 8,000 miles away from my team. I don't know all of the issues. I don't know everything that's going on. So instead, what we do is they go to local HR managers that those global managers or those managers on site can help with local HR issues. I don't understand the labor laws in India or in Poland or of our partners. It's just not something I would ever be able to handle. Instead, we leverage those managers who are the eyes and ears with the team. So if one of my team members is having a problem and doesn't want to come to me, those managers who are on site, they will come to me and say, I think you need to understand that there's a problem going on here. And it's really been it's been a great benefit for us. The other thing that we do is we provide solid documentation. We're actually we're very, very big in something called knowledge-centered support, which is this belief that knowledge-based articles and knowledge in general is not a write once thing and then everybody follows it. Knowledge is an evolutionary thing, and that knowledge just keeps growing. And we're using a KCS system that just helps us continually better drive what we know and what we share with our people, and everybody has a stake in being successful with it. The other thing is we provide strong project requirements. So when I tell my team, I want you to, I want you to inventory all of my servers. What does that mean? I can say go inventory the servers, or I can say, you know what, I need to know what servers we have, what the IP address is, what data center it's in, what version of Windows it has, what version of SQL Server it has. Those are, when I provide better requirements, my team does better work. The other thing we do is team playbooks. We have a playbook is basically something that says this is how we do things. It's almost like a procedure, only it's a little more I don't want to say lax. It's less formal, and this is what you want to look for versus this is how you do it. And the other thing that our client-facing teams do is they have a client run book, and it says this is what the client does. This is what database platform they're on. These are the modules of our product they have installed. This is what time they run things. These are the vendors they work with. And we start to pull all that data together, and it tells us how our clients operate. And once we start, and you know, the more data you can put in the hands of your people, and the more things that you can get out of people's head and into something that is consumable by your people, the better you're setting them up to be successful in how they support your clients. Another thing that we've been really successful with is what we refer to as clarity in communication. Because we run shifts and we do that true follow the sun support, we have to be very good at handing things off. So if I'm working on something and I'm about ready to go to bed here in the next 20 minutes, and I'm going to hand this off to my team in India, I can say to Deepshika, who's my colleague in India, I can say, all right, this is what's happening, this is what I have done, this is where you need to go next, and be very clear, very concise, and help understand what has been done and what needs to be done. But the more important thing is not just saying this is what needs to be done or this is how you do it. You have to help your people understand this is why we're doing it. The why is arguably sometimes more important than the how. Now, I work for a director who is a really good guy, but he is a strong leader and has been he's been working with SQL Server much longer than I have. And one of the things that he has really driven into my team is that we have what he refers to as the team's guiding principles. And everything we do, we look at it through the prism of transparency, collaboration, and root cause analysis. Every time that we close out a ticket or a request, those three things need to be addressed. Are we telling the client-facing team, or telling the client, telling our colleagues what happened, what we did? If there was a mistake, how was the mistake made? How did we fix it? And part of that is also collaboration, working with people. Nothing drives me nuts more than people who just throw a problem over the wall and say, oh, this is another team's problem, they need to fix it. When we have a problem with a Windows server, and I see a note on a ticket that says, Team Windows, please take care of this, I will grab that ticket, send it right back to the member of my team who did that and say, all right, before you send it to the Windows team, what did you do? How did you troubleshoot this? What steps have you taken? Because if you've already done some troubleshooting, don't you dare make the Windows team do it again. Help them help you. And the other thing we strongly believe is root cause analysis. If a backup fails, why? Did we lose connection to a NAS? What was the issue? Don't just say, oh, this has been fixed. Tell me why. Why did it fail? What happened? This is something that we strive to do all day, every day. And so the other thing we're really successful with, and I am a firm believer in this, and I've been the beneficiary of this, is regular visits to our team. I've been to India twice. I'm on the calendar to go back in about 6 months, and I'm really excited. When you get to go to visit your teams around the globe, you start to understand the culture, and you start to understand things that we take for granted. Now, I love this picture because it tells a great story. This is something I've seen more than once throughout my travels in India, and that you see the family of 4, sometimes a family of 5 on a motorbike. Living here in the U.S. or in the West, you would never see that happen here. But in India, this is common. It's part of the culture there. And as we start seeing things that happen in their culture, it helps me understand my people, and it helps me understand how they work and how they operate. And I think that's a really big deal. When you start to understand the people and where they come from, it helps you work with them better. And as part of that, again, it helps you understand the place. And by the way, this is my team in Pune. On the left, that's Harshal and Chandrahas and Jayant and Pranita. That is my boss, Brian, in the center. This was during one of his trips. Deepshika is to his left. Deepshika is my right hand. She is my senior SQL Server DBA in Pune, and she's just fantastic. And that is Ruchi, and on the far right of this photo is Raja, who is the manager on our team in India. He's our local manager in India. One of the things we do really well is that we have started to send SMEs. We started sending people at my level. We send our technical experts and not just managers. Because when someone who has the technical skill set goes to visit them, goes to visit our team in India, we do knowledge transfer, and the impact of that is unbelievable. When I went last time, I was just there in January of 2015, and I was actually doing. I was teaching my team how to fix and troubleshoot corruption in a database. Now, for someone in India to learn about detecting and fixing database corruption from an MVP, to them that was huge, and it's just part of how we do things. That we send technical expertise so that we can help train our people in India so that they're better equipped to help support our clients. And I'm going to be honest, it's very self-serving. When I teach my team in India how to do something, it means it's less for me to do, which means they're better equipped to support the client, and that means I get to sleep in at night. I love that. The other thing we do is that we try to bring our people from India to visit us in the US, and it's for the exact same reason. When our people in India come to the US, they see how we operate. They see how we do things. They see how we interact. And it's eye-opening on both sides. Because I have a little bit of time, I'm going to tell the story. We had an issue with one of our database servers going down. And I will say it was a Linux server running Oracle. I like to think that our SQL Server database servers are a little more stable. But we had a database server going down running multiple instances of Oracle, and I saw how my team in the US handled it. And then the next week, the exact same thing happened while I was in India, and I watched how my team in India did it, and I went, wow, these guys really do something very different. They interacted differently. They had a demeanor about them that was so different than what we do in the U.S. I found it fantastic. All right, and okay, I'm being told I have 5 minutes, so I'm good on time here. The other thing we do when one of us goes to visit our team in India, it's all about relationship building. Yes, I can teach my people things all day, but it's all about the team building and the relationship building and them understanding. And we have this tradition, and I don't know that it's ever been documented. It's just something we do, in that when one of my colleagues is going to India, I send a gift with them to give to my team. And it's just this, when my colleague walks in the door, it's like, oh, this is a gift for the DBA team from Mike, or from the US DBA team. And I will tell you that my team in India loves American chocolate. Actually, the last time I went over, I took a big bag of Ghirardelli chocolate. They were in heaven. So really, when we visit our people, it's about building the relationships and building the teams. So again, this is my team in Pune. Again, this is Chandrahas, Harshal, myself. I'm the bald white guy, and Jayant, Pranita, Pradnya, Deepshika, and Ruchi. and you know, these are great people. I love working with my team in India. They're good. Um, the other thing we do is that we celebrating diversity. Now, our parent company is very big about diversity, but we really make the business case for diversity. Um, and something we do really well, and today was a classic example of this, is that we leverage the diversity of our teams for our business needs. So today was a holiday in India. So pretty much the entire office in Pune was off. So we supported them from the U.S. They do the same thing on American Thanksgiving or Christmas. They work those days. But something our team in India does, and I love this, is that they'll take a holiday. So for Diwali, which is very much a Hindu holiday, um, our um, our Muslim colleagues will work on Diwali so that our Hindu colleagues can have the day off. However, the first night of Ramadan, it's just a given that our Hindu colleagues will work so that our Muslim colleagues can take the day off. We really, there's a business case for celebrating diversity, and we do this incredibly well. Now, this is a challenge, but we do it well. We do regular meetings, and whether it be a conference call or a video chat or how we do it, we make time to meet with our teams. And it's not just about knowledge transfer. It's not just about relationship building. It's about giving our teams a voice. It's about making time to listen to what they have to say. We do face-to-face video conferences, and by the way, that's me. It was probably about a year ago, and you see me with actually wearing probably the same headset I'm wearing now, and I'm doing a video conference with my team in India. But one of the things I do is I make time to listen, and that's absolutely key. When I'm meeting with my team, especially if we're doing a video chat, I go around the virtual table and I make it a point to call on each member of my team to say, what's going on? What do you need to talk about? What needs do you have that aren't being met? I want to listen to my team and I want to hear what they have to say. I mentioned in the past or earlier that sometimes my team doesn't like to speak up, but when you ask them, hey, what's going on? Is there something you need me to know? When you give them the opportunity to speak, that's when they do speak. The other thing that we do, and this is something we've been incredibly successful with, is that we acknowledge time zones. Now, when I opened this presentation half an hour ago, one of the things I said, and this was intentional, was good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And the point there is that you don't necessarily know where everyone is around the globe sometimes. So you want to be inclusive and acknowledge that you have people who were getting up very early or staying up very late to take part in a conversation. You know, when PASS asked me to do the 24 hours of PASS, and they said, would you mind doing a late evening session? I realized that this is part of what I do at work, is that I take care of my teams at all hours. So for me to dial into a meeting or to do a WebEx at 10 p.m. Eastern is not a big deal, because when you have people around the globe, you have to meet at times that work for your teams. Now, something else we do really well is we celebrate. When a member of my team has a major life event, we congratulate them on weddings and birthdays and children. This picture is actually my colleague Pete, who is one of the managers I work with here in the U.S., and he was actually at Raja's wedding, which, you know, something we celebrate with them. It's something we do well. But, and I should say, and one of the things that we do really well is that we make our global teams part of our business processes. Yes, we do regular India out exercises. This is, and it's actually part of our global disaster recovery and business continuity testing, is that we make sure that if we would have a disaster here in Metro Boston, can our people from India cover it? Or if there's you know, if something happens, can we do it? And about 2 years ago, there was some civil unrest in India, and we were actually getting ready to implement our business continuity plans to make sure that we could cover our clients during a disaster. During Hurricane Sandy, we had a lot of people in New York who were simply unable to come to work, or their places of work were shut down because of all of the flooding and the hurricanes. And our clients never saw that we just pulled resources from around the globe and covered during a major hurricane. And clients didn't know until afterwards, and we tell them, oh, by the way, just so you know, we had to implement our business continuity plans because of this hurricane, and we successfully met the needs of our client. It was a great success story. But the most important thing that we do, and something we do well, is that we treat our global teams simply as if they're in a different office and they're still part of the same team. I'm a big fan of creating that inclusive approach, and this is something we do well. We treat our people as if they're colleagues and they're just in a different office, and it just feels right. When you're doing it right, you'll know it, and it's something we do well. So just to recap, global teams, when you deploy them right, can absolutely enhance the experience of your client and your organization. But take care of your teams so that they can take care of your clients. Treat your teams as if they're just in a different office. Listen, communicate, and understand the cultures. So you have just listened to me speak about global cultures for the last 35, 40 minutes. So I'd like to ask Yaroslav, do we have any questions that we can open up to?
Hi, Mike. Thank you for the presentation. So far, we don't have any questions. A lot of attendees, but seems that there are no questions so far. We still have a couple of minutes to go. If you want to share something more, maybe, but right now.
I'm actually, I was kind of waiting for one of my friends or one of my colleagues to jump in and start to heckle me about something. I'm kind of surprised we don't have many questions.
No.
So okay, well while we're on this, let me grab the slide. So and this is something that I'm a big fan of, is celebrating diversity. So if you look at this photo, this photo here on the right, that is Yasin, who works out of our office in Pune. My colleague Pete. My colleague Tina, who I lovingly refer to as the work wife. She's one of my dearest friends, and that is Trupti on the right-hand side of this picture. Tina and Pete were in India during Diwali, which is the Hindu festival of darkness into light, and you know, Tina really got into it, and I love hearing these stories. And you know, there's a small group of us who have been to India a couple of times and have visited our teams. You know, Tina has been to Poland. Actually, her boss Jeff has been to Poland several times. I'm hoping that next year, as my team grows and when we have people in Poland, I will probably be there as well. But just getting to know the people and where they come from, that is such a huge part of being successful in having people around the globe, is knowing the people and where they're from and how they live. It's so important. So I take it we're not going to have any questions. So Yaroslav, let's wrap this up. I'm gonna hand this back to you.
Second, okay. So thank you for attending Leadership Without Borders, working with global teams. Remember that Mike will be presenting this presentation at PASS Summit 2014, and the general session was the same name. Remember to use the discount code 24HOP15 to save $200. Again, I would like to also thank our presenting sponsors, Microsoft, Idera, and Dell Software, and our supporting sponsors, Pyramid Analytics, SQL Sentry, and Hewlett Packard. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as me and everyone does. Follow along a lot on social media with @PASS24Hope, and share your thoughts on the event with #PASS24Hope, and hashtag SQL Pass. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for our next section, highlights from index internals, row store, column store, and no store with filling the lining, happening in just a couple of minutes. Thank you very much.